So, in this training, you will learn what you need to know and what to do when encountering immigration agents, police, FBI, or vigilantes at your home and child care center. All of the resources mentioned will be shared in the chat and can be shared with the families you work with. For your protection, please do not share any personal information regarding your immigration status during this meeting. Next slide, please. You have rights regardless of your status. You are protected by the U.S. Constitution. It is important to know your rights and understand your right to exercise them. Please note, this is not a substitute for legal advice. Next slide, please. During this presentation, I will be referring to Know Your Right cards. This card is intended to help you remember and express your rights. Generally, on one side of the card, it has what your rights are, and on the other side, it has a script that you can pass to the agent, which states things like, I wish to remain silent, or I do not consent to a search. And you can see a few examples on the screen. Next slide, please. What you need to know. To enter a home, immigration agents or the police need either a valid warrant signed by a judge, magistrate, or permission from the occupant. Without a valid warrant signed by a judge, you do not have to open the door. Opening the door could mean giving them permission to enter. A warrant does not mean you have to answer questions. If immigration agents or police are questioning, the occupant should say out loud, I wish to remain silent, or show them the Know Your Rights card. With that said, what do? Do not open the door. Ask for identification. They may try to trick, frighten, or intimidate you to get into your house. Look through a window to see their identification. Ask if they have a warrant. If they do not have a warrant, they do not have the right to enter your home. Now, if they have a warrant, you have a right to see it. Ask them to slide the warrant under the door or put it up to your window. Remember, do not open the door. Make sure to read the warrant carefully. If the warrant does not have the information that is required, it is not valid. Next slide, please. So some of you might be asking, well, what's a warrant? A warrant is a document issued by a court that gives an officer the power to do something. A search warrant allows the officers to search a particular area to look for something or someone. An arrest warrant allows them to arrest someone and take someone into custody. Now, there are judicial warrants, which are issued by a court, and there are administrative warrants, which are issued usually by the Department of Homeland Security, also known as DHS. In order to be valid, a judicial warrant must be issued by a judicial court, be signed by a judge, must state the address of the home to be searched, or the name of the person to be arrested. And lastly, it must be executed within the time period specified on the warrant. Now, if when looking at the warrant, you notice that it's not a valid warrant because it doesn't meet what was previously mentioned, you can say, this is not a valid warrant and you may not enter my house. Please leave. Do not engage in conversation or allow yourself to be interrogated. If they do have a valid warrant, you must allow them to carry out the warrant, but ensure that the search or arrest is contained to the scope of the warrant. Now, that might sound a little bit confusing, so I'll explain it a little further. For example, if it is a search warrant, show them to the areas described in the warrant and object to any search outside of that scope. So you need to object if it's not following the scope of the warrant. Do not interfere, but record the interaction. If you cannot record, take notes immediately after. If an officer takes any of your property, document what they took and ask for a receipt. Next slide, please. So another type of warrant is an administrative warrant. This warrant is issued by a federal agency like the Department of Homeland Security, and it is signed by an immigration officer or an immigration judge. Some things to highlight about this warrant are that it never authorizes a search of private, non-public areas, and you can refuse entry for a request to search an area or obtain evidence. It may authorize an arrest of someone in public only. A public space is where anyone can come and go freely. For example, a park, the lobby of a building, a street. If members of the public can come and go freely, so can ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. A warrant of removal or deportation does not give an officer the right to enter your home. This is a judicial warrant. You should scan it from top to bottom. At the top, you should look for who issued the document, a court, a different government agency. Below that, what does it authorize? A search, an arrest. Looking further down, is it your address, your name? Did you spell it correctly? Or did they spell it correctly? If it has the wrong address, it's not a valid warrant for your address. And make sure that you check that it's actually signed at the bottom by a judge. Next slide, please. So these are the examples that I just explained. So looking at the top, the middle, and then the bottom, making sure that it has a signature as you can see with those yellow arrows. I would highly suggest you take a photo of this, a picture, because if it might not be useful to you, you never know who it might be useful to or for. Next slide, please. This is an administrative warrant. This is an example of an administrative warrant. You can also, and you should scan it from top to bottom and check for the same items just described. You know, who's issuing it, what is it authorized, when was it issued, and is it signed. Many times ICE will arrive without any documentation and try to induce consent or force their way in. They may arrive with documentation like an administrative warrant, and this does not have all the powers they will claim. Highly advised for you to read any documentation they present very carefully. Take your time and do not consent to their entry if you do not need to. Next slide, please. Now, if vigilantes come to your child care center home, what can you do? Let's go over what you should do. We highly advise you stay calm and do not open the door. You can ask to verify the identification of any stranger through a window, a door, without opening the door. You have the right to see a warrant signed by a judge and refuse a search of your center or sometimes your home, which is where you take care of the children. You have the right to see a warrant signed by a judge and refuse a search like I mentioned. So if anyone asks you questions, you have the right to remain silent. If you are unable to safely record, write down any description of the person, including physical description, name of law, enforcement agency, if they had any lettering in particular in their clothing, license plates if possible, or what the vehicle looked like. Um, Contact your local resources. You can find more information for California state-specific resources in the chat. We're going to go ahead and add that for you so you can copy and paste it or take a photo of it so you can share it with those that might be in need of it. Next slide, please. What do you need to know in the workplace? So to enter a workplace, ICE needs either a valid warrant or consent. We mentioned that earlier. Therefore, employers should not give consent to entry without a valid judicial warrant and should instruct employees not to consent to entry either. Sometimes we run into fear, but this is a moment to remain calm and never instruct employees to run before or during an enforcement action. If they run, it may lead to the employees being arrested or detained. A warrant does not allow them to interrogate employees, try to sort individuals by status. Everyone has a right to refuse to answer questions and remain silent. Employees and employers should not physically interfere, make false statements, or obstruct the officers. Employees and employers should also document the interaction by recording if they feel comfortable. Next slide, please. Now let's continue to mention what can you do. Make sure to have an emergency plan in place with employees and families you serve. You might think this might not be something you encounter, but it's better be safe than sorry. If you are the employer, you should speak with the agents. In the event you are not present, have the person you assigned to speak with them and ask for identification. Remind the officers, that they do not have permission to enter private areas without a judicial warrant because they will try to do so. Ask them to stay in a designated area outside of the facility. Now, the person speaking to the officer should ask for documentation. If they present documentation, read it carefully and determine if it's a valid warrant. Now, if the officers enter your workplace, you have the right to remain silent, like we mentioned earlier, to not provide any information about your immigration status. Say out loud if you wish to remain silent or show them your Know Your Rights card. In the event that they do have a valid warrant, then allow them to proceed. Accompany the officers throughout their search and record the interaction or take detailed notes. If they try to take something that is vital to your business, you can explain why it is vital, ask for permission to photocopy it before it is seized. In the case that an officer, after an officer searches, they arrest or detain you or an employee, remain calm and do not fight back. If search, say, I do not consent to the search. Next slide, please. Public Counsel has created a family preparedness plan that will guide you and families to consider the important decisions to make before someone is detained. We invite everyone to please scan the QR code or click the link in the chat. This preparedness plan will outline the necessary documents and steps that should be followed, such as birth certificates, foreign passports, medical. I will repeat that one more time. The preparedness plan will outline the necessary documents and steps that should be followed, such as birth certificates, foreign passports, medical, school, and immigration documents.